Welcome to the Guitar Dads Podcast, a podcast for guitar dads by guitar dads. This week, it's only new rock and roll, but will I like it? Heaven's Rock Room really got stacked this week. And what the hell is yacht rock? We're talking music genres. We're all in the same boat this week on the Guitar Dads Podcast. Now, the dudes who really love to rock the boat, Matt and Dave.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave, and welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you, and thank you for listening. How you doing, man?
Thank you for listening. I'm doing pretty well. We're coming off the Labor Day weekend, and in America, this is a big deal because most kids are back in school after that.
Yep.
And parents rejoice with kids back in school, but also things get a little more hectic with kids.
Things get super hectic. Absolutely.
So Dave and I are both feeling that a little bit of hectic week.
We're feeling it. So it feels good to kind of just record the pod. It feels good to relax, sit back, have a drink. What's in your glass?
I'm drinking the age-old Pinot Noir.
What's in your wallet? Oh, well, I'm drinking a nice bourbon as usual. My nice this time I selected Long Branch, which is one of my actually go-tos by Wild Turkey. So there you go.
We're back to basics. Me with the Pinot, Dave with the whiskey, and we're good to go.
With the whisks. Yeah,
so
and we're
Dave,
good to go.
shout out all the stuff that people need.
All right. Well, thank you to our loyal listeners and who listen to us each and every week. We love you guys. And if you're new to the podcast, as we always say, thank you for joining. We hope you enjoy it. And we hope you come back. And you know where you can find us all over social media at Guitar Dads Podcast on Instagram, where you will see clips of the show and other stuff too, memes, all the fun stuff. And on on Facebook at Guitar Dads Podcast. Come join the private Facebook group. A lot of fun over there. And over on YouTube, search Guitar Dads, and we put the podcast up there, and pretty much that's it. So if you want to watch the podcast, I don't know why you would, but if you want to, it's on there. But we do have some cool interviews that we just did with Doug Cower of Cower Guitars. We had we've had a number of interviews in the last bunch of weeks, so go back and listen to those interviews
Alex
if you
from
haven't.
Copper Sound.
Alex
Pedals,
from Copper Sounds. I just didn't want to start listing them all because there's so many. Peter Norrie, Lee Anderton. We had Colt Westbrook from Walrus. Hey, go back and listen. Yeah, if you guys had a lot of fun.
If you guys like interviews, we do interviews too. We do it a little bit of everything here on the Guitar Dads.
We do. So we like to kind of keep it mixed up for your listening pleasure.
We keep it mixed up, man. Okay, what is that? It for the shout outs?
Is that it for the shout outs? I think so. I think we're done with the shout outs.
Yeah, we talked about the Patreon. This podcast is made possible by patron supporters. So thank you so much. If you're so inclined, we appreciate if you go and sign up for anything on the Patreon. And we would greatly appreciate it. So
yeah, give them the site if they don't know where to go.
Oh, patreon.com/Guitar Dads Podcast.
You got it.
All right, here we go. Into the Dataverse we go. We had a sad Dataverse week.
Yeah, should we just get this out?
Let's just get it over. Get it out.
Every time we have a sad week, we just like to kind of get this out from under everything, just get it over with, and then we'll move on to the fun stuff. But number of deaths this week, starting with Jimmy Buffett. I was, I don't think I knew, I had heard he was sick, but I didn't know how sick. And so I was a little bit taken aback when I saw that flash on my phone. But yeah, Jimmy Buffett. I mean, hey, I wasn't a big Jimmy guy, but like I said in the group, you cannot discount what this guy meant to music and to a lot of people and the massive, massive fan base that the guy had. I mean, he was just like an absolute icon,
Yeah, he was. And I agree. I wasn't like a parrot head, but I loved his hits. I thought they were fun and it's a vibe. And I mean, talk about parlaying a song into like a whole empire and kind of lifestyle,
Totally.
I've been to a couple of his Margaritaville locations over the years, and they're fun places to hang out. It's like they just he just had like he was just a great spirit of a person, kind of perpetuating this Margaritaville, attitude, and and it's just really great. I remember back in the days when he would come around every summer long, and everywhere he played, not every summer, what am I trying to say? He would come along on a tour every summer, and everywhere he played was like this massive like luau type of party. And it's like
crazy.
That's just so cool,
People
were
always the tailgate was always crazy at gate open, like in the middle of the day, people just be lining up and setting up. It was like insanity. And it's probably, I think, as much of a legend as other artists are, he was kind of just a different kind of cat,
Yeah, man, what a unique guy, and a unique thing that he had going. And you come up to Boston, and he comes up to Boston, you got people like tailgating like they're in Hawaii or something.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
And people would show up on with flatbed trucks with like tiki bars on them, and the tailgate at a Buffett show was just like a legendary thing to behold.
A lot of you guys probably know, so
pretty
raise
cool.
a glass to Jimmy Buffett.
That's right. I drank a lot of margaritas this weekend, kind of in his honor. Maybe a little too much, but it was good. It was good.
Like you needed the excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna. The truth be told, I was gonna drink margaritas anyway.
Well,
but it was really fun. Yeah,
it was.
So, yeah.
And we had a couple more deaths. It was a busy week with deaths. It was like a weird kind of like what do they say? It comes in threes, and it did.
It did.
Steve Harwell, singer, of course, of Smash Mouth. He's had some health issues over the years. Really sad. I think his biggest issue was liver failure.
He had liver failure.
A lot of known issues with alcohol, and very sad. But listen,
thing.
If you're not a big fan of Smash Mouth, and Matt and I kind of weren't big fans of Smash Mouth. We like Smash Mouth; they were cool. But I mean, he was just like all over music. He wrote for movies and TV shows and all this stuff. I mean, he really was like a big name in music. So that's a big loss.
And Smash Mouth recently had a resurgence on like TikTok and the socials with the thing, the somebody once told me when like, it was like a kid gets hit in the head with a soccer ball, and it's like somebody.
Yeah.
So they had like a resurgence with that song on social media.
I did see Smash Mouth.
Somebody ingeniously.
Yes.
Sync that to like a kid or an adult getting hit with the ball, and
freaking brilliant.
Pretty brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
And
I can't. We saw them, or maybe I was with you. I can't remember.
Did we? Yes.
Who did they open for? I was thinking all day. I think it was Train, but I can't remember.
No, I think it was Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah,
yes.
It was Bare Naked Ladies for sure.
No, was it Bare Naked Ladies? No, we saw Bare Naked Ladies once. Well, we saw them a number of times for free, but at in Boston when they did that massive government center.
Yeah, no, they didn't open for them. They didn't open for them there. No.
But we only saw Bare Naked Ladies at a paid show when we saw them at the Garden. Smash Mouth we saw at some theater show, and I can't remember who else. You might not have been there, but we saw there was another band, a bigger band around that time frame, late 90s.
I definitely saw them.
For.
Okay, I definitely saw them on the Mix 98.5, whatever it was, Fest.
Yeah,
remember when like
Radio Fest? Yeah,
remember radios would do concerts like that. I definitely saw them at that one, and they did. Hey, now get my Nasta. Yep.
Steve Harwell, and of course, everybody knows the one song, Dreamweaver. Gary Wright has passed away. Another big legendary name. And man, this was just like a tough week with deaths. I guess they say it's
Dreamweaver.
There you go. Sing it. Well, raise a glass to all those we've lost this week, and hopefully next week will be a better week. Anyway, on a happier note, I speaking of who should be dead but isn't dead, the Rolling Stones have put out going to put out a new record. They teased a new single this week. They teased it in part. They dropped like 10 seconds or 19 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And now the song's been released. The new album forthcoming, I think in October sometime. Maybe if I got that wrong, I don't know. Let me know. But it's called Hackney Diamonds, and I just can't get over this. The Stones are like 80 years old, and they're putting out brand new music.
Yep.
Unreal.
unbelievable. There's no stopping them. There's no stopping their touring. It's really an unbelievable run that they've had and are having. Just what an iconic band, and iconic, iconic to the world, right? Not just the music world, just to the world.
Just the world. We talked about this a lot in terms of with Kurt Cobain, and when the guitars went up for auction and all that kind of stuff, and how much does Kurt Cobain mean to the music world, and why those guitars went for big money, because he was more of a pop culture icon than he was a music icon. And the same can be said for the Rolling Stones, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, totally, yeah. I mean, they represent that whole kind of attitude of rock and roll in the 60s, and bringing, kind of ushering in that kind of attitude.
Yep.
And, and they just have continued it, and it's just unbelievable to see. And then now they get another record coming. Like, this is crazy, man.
If you want to know how much of, good for them. But if you want to know how much of pop culture icons they really are, look no further than some of like the 10 and 12-year-olds that walk around with like the logo, like the lips and the tongue, the tongue and it's just like, they don't even know what the heck they're wearing. And that logo is synonymous with so many things. It's incredibly recognizable. Although I read somewhere earlier this week, and now I'm going to, of course, forget where I read it, but they had determined, whoever this was, had determined like one of the most recognizable symbol in the world. One of them is actually the Dark Side of the Moon.
The prism
cover. The prism.
Yeah.
Which is really insane.
Yeah, we went. My brother, everybody knows my brother. He was on the podcast very early on, but he's in a Floyd tribute band. But when we were in Jackson Hole, when we went to Yellowstone on a family trip last year, he got a T-shirt that said "Dark Side of the Moose."
That's awesome.
He was recently up here, and we went to Maine, and we did some kind of touring around Maine, and like I can't tell you how many people stopped us.
It's a great
and said
shirt.
to him, like, that's an amazing shirt, man. And it is. It's like, it's just so iconic. Like, just that logo. It was that logo with, on the end of it, there's a moose, right? So, but
awesome.
it's just such an iconic shirt. Like, everybody instantly recognized the joke and what it was, and so it's like so funny. So anyway, it is. But yeah, the Stones is up there too, Dave. The Stones is right up there with logos. We had a logo discussion not that long ago.
We did a few weeks ago. We did
when the guy who actually designed the logo that I'm wearing now, the GNR logo,
when he passed away.
When he passed away, we talked about that. Anyway.
First new music since 2005. And by the way, Paul McCartney played bass on one of these tracks.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm thinking like, I hear this and I'm like, what is this? Like you snack and music hour at the nursing home? It's like, jeez.
I don't think you can make nursing home jokes about these guys.
No, they are the antithesis of nursing
These guys
home.
are living cooler lives than most, 20-year-old, 25-year-olds.
Seriously. Oh my God. Wow.
Oh my God. Yeah. Totally crazy. So here you go.
Anyway.
If you're
there's
into
the Dataverse
Stones,
this week.
If you're into the Stones, go check this out. Yeah, that's the Dataverse.
Yeah, checked out the song. It's actually, I dig it. I think it's cool.
Cool, man.
So go check it out.
Cool, man.
That's the Dataverse for this week. And I don't have the music queued up, but it's dad joke segment time. Dad jokes.
All right, what do you got this week?
That's another death. That's another death that happened. Bob Barker.
I know. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Anyway. So here's your dad joke. Here's your dad joke for the week, folks. Block your ears now if you don't want to hear it. So I debated with a flat earther once. He stormed off saying he'd walk to the edge of the earth to prove me wrong. I'm sure he'll come around eventually. Anyway,
that's a good one. That's
a good one.
That doesn't deserve the doop 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 boo. That doesn't deserve that. That's a good one. I love that one. I'm into that.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lame joke for the week, and we're gonna skip over listener mailbag this week because you guys did not suggest anything.
Yeah. If you want to hear topics, let us know. Jeez, we post this in the group, and you guys are like, nah, I don't know. You guys talk about whatever. All right, fine.
You talk about whatever you want,
and that's what we're gonna do. So,
anyways, well,
Dave. That's the thing. It's like people want to suggest topics. But sometimes people just want to say, you know what? This is why I listen to a podcast, so you can talk about topics.
You figure it out.
You guys are doing the podcast. Why should I do it? It's not my podcast.
That's right.
So there you go.
Okay, you just gave me memories of that line in Office Space when with Michael Bolton, and he said, "Why don't you ever change your name? Why should I change my name? He's the one who sucks.
He's the one who sucks." What was that?
Anyway.
Who's that I saw a hilarious thing. Who's that comedian? Sebastian, Italian guy. Who is
Sebastian
that guy?
Maniscalco?
Maniscalco. What's his name? Maniscalco. Maniscalco. Yeah, he's funny because I feel the same way, but it's along these lines. That's why I'm thinking of this, because he's like, why am like the self checkout at like Walmart or like Target? It's like, why am I working at the store now?
I made this joke initially when these things first came out.
It's like,
can I get a discount on my groceries?
Podcast? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we get it. You guys don't want to do any work. We understand.
I don't blame you, listeners. I don't blame you. Okay, here we go.
But don't complain about the content.
So you got some stuff on here where we want to talk about genres and yacht rock, which I think is ridiculous as a genre. But I want to just pick up something, because the Wall Street Journal did an article on this, and they did a podcast on it about Spotify, Spotify's podcasting business. And probably a lot of you are listening to us on Spotify right now, but it turns out, whether or not you care about this, you guys know, like, we like to get into some of this stuff. It's like, it's like a business thing. Sometimes we like to get into this, and we like to give Spotify a hard time. But so the article actually said that Spotify got into the podcasting world because they don't really make any money off of the streaming from the music, right? And we've talked about this, about how, Spotify probably isn't paying artists enough, and a lot of it comes down to the labels as well. We've had a lot of talk about this over the years, and I have brought this up in the past on the podcast, that if you look at Spotify, they're a publicly traded company. They're not making any money. They've never turned a profit. They're worth however many billions of dollars on the stock exchange, but they don't make money. And part of the reason they don't make any money, according to this article in the Wall Street Journal, that they have to turn around and give 70% of what they make off the music streaming. On average, 70% goes to the labels, the publishers, essentially, right? So that's the reason they got onto the podcasting game. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit, that, what they're making as a margin off of streaming isn't quite enough for them to be profitable as a company, so they went to podcasting. And
wow.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like,
yeah.
We knew they weren't making a profit, but this little tidbit about 70% has to go to the actual publishers of the music. I didn't realize it was that high. I thought they might be retaining a little more. And the Journal's reporting it. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but that's what they're reporting. So it's pretty interesting.
It's
the least. Yeah,
it's a lesser known outfit, the Wall Street Journal. So I don't know. They might not be.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I trust them. But no, I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. So, and Dave and I have said this in the past, where we say, we would be willing to pay more if they paid the artists more, and we knew that that's what they were doing. And I think what this comes down to is, it really, we've talked about the laws about how much they actually have to give to the publishers and all that, and that doesn't necessarily translate. What they pay the publishers doesn't necessarily translate to in the artist's pockets.
Right.
So, there's a lot of that as well, but it was a lot more than I thought that they were turning around and paying to the publishers. So it's kind of an interesting situation there. But, it also turns out, the point of the article was basically, they've really ramped up their podcasting, which I think those of you that use Spotify are aware of, that, just over the last 4 or 5 years, they've gone into the podcasting game. And they signed like Joe Rogan. There's some people that just exclusively on there now, and it hasn't paid off. They haven't been able to turn a profit on that piece of it. They estimate that they've invested over $1 billion in podcasts,
and they still have yet to turn a profit.
And they've yet to turn a profit. And the reason that is, to let you, this is more of a music podcast, not a podcast, but, the reason that is it just turns out that podcasts are incredibly difficult to make money off of. And I was like, we could have told you that on the Guitar Dads a long time ago.
We can tell you all about that.
So anyway, I don't want to get too far down this, but I thought it was interesting little tidbit about Spotify and the streaming.
That is interesting, yeah.
But I think what this means is because they're struggling and because they want to get people signed up as much as they can, which is why they went into this podcast game. I think this means like we're not going to see real price hikes anytime soon. So it continues to be this unbelievable deal and resource we as music fans get out of Spotify and Apple and the rest of the streamers. So it's like it's like this golden age we're in. It's kind of unbelievable to me. So
it really is.
Anyway, that's all we'll say.
But anyway,
you want to get into the genres?
Yeah. Should we get into the headliner for the night? Yeah. This is truth be told, came up as a text conversation between some friends here, and about what is a music genre? Like how did it all kind of start? Like how did we start to decide what belongs into what box? And this started because of Jimmy Buffett's death and the concept, whether you think it's a genre or not, the idea of yacht rock.
Yeah.
And what is yacht rock? Is it a subgenre of rock? Does it really exist?
No.
Are we really saying, when we talk about a lot of the music that we like, and we may say pop sometimes, are we really talking rock? Does it all fall under the same umbrella? So that's what we want to discuss tonight.
Yeah, okay.
Or today, or whenever you're listening to us.
Whenever you listen. You want me to start talking about this?
Yeah, what do you think? Because you were the one that said yacht rock is just... Should I quote you?
You can call it a genre because really a genre is only kind of what people agree is a category of music.
Well, yeah, but right? People agree, but more you think of genres more as what people universally agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if so many people would agree with what falls into the yacht rock umbrella.
Yeah, I think that's right. So genres, to me, my kind of definition of genre is, a musical kind of a movement, right? Let's give some example. Like probably the greatest example for me in our time, Dave, is grunge, right? Like that's a musical movement that happened, and almost like a cultural thing that happened, right? Where it's a musical movement, the same way like the hair bands of the 80s. That was like a musical kind of a movement, and bands started coming out of the woodwork. The same with grunge. Like how many grunge bands were there? Even though there was maybe top 10 that actually made it, it was just like this massive kind of a musical era, right? That happened. Yacht rock is a retroactively applied name to a certain, not even artists in like a time in music, more about just what the music feels like and sounds like. So I guess you could call that a genre, but to me, like that's just dumb. Like it doesn't make any sense. I agree with you in some ways. In other ways, I disagree because I feel like, yes, grunge, we still refer to a lot of those bands as grunge rock, but the further, and you mentioned hair metal or hair whatever, bands,
what did you call it? Hair bands, right?
Bands.
Yeah, people call it hair metal, glam metal. It's all glam rock.
Yeah.
There's so many different terms. They're interchangeable. But I think the further removed you get from the era, the more that music gets lumped into the same genre, which we call rock, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you don't often nowadays hear grunge. You hear rock. You hear, you even on if you're a satellite subscriber and you put on Lithium. I forget how they advertise, what they play, but it's like, they don't just say it's grunge of the, it's music of the 90s, rock of the, however it is, I think so. The further you get removed from a very specific genre, if you want to call it subgenres, glam metal, for example, eventually you all just call it rock.
Yeah. Well, no, that's true, but that's like, what we're not necessarily talking about that now. We're talking about all these subgenres of rock, essentially.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to compare. We're not saying like jazz isn't a genre. Like of course it is, the same way that rock is. What we're really getting into is this kind of rock pop subgenres, right? And some of them I agree with, and some of them I don't agree with.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when as you had called it more, I think accurately, easy listening.
Yeah, easy listening is one way to say it, but again, even
that's more universal.
But even easy listening is dumb because it's like That's not a genre. Like a genre to me is like I said, like a musical kind of a movement. Right? And like where artists are like, oh, I identify with that and I'm going to make music that is like that because that's what I like, which happened with all the great kind of errors, like, 70s rock, which I don't know even what you call that. Like, like all these are movements that happened and inspired people to begin playing. Yacht rock is not that. Like Jimmy Buffett, like didn't say like, I'm a yacht rock artist. Right. And like, the guy who's the guy that sang sailing? What's his name?
Isn't that oh man, who was that?
Anyway, like he didn't say like I'm a yacht rock artist and I really and
just because it had sailing in the lyrics doesn't mean
this is how stupid yacht rock as a genre is, because like just because you talk about sailing that means it's yacht rock. Like this is dumb and it's not it's a very arbitrary thing and it doesn't really describe anything. And it's idiotic, in my opinion.
You're right. Well, I don't think it's dumb, but you're right though in the sense that it is kind of like you can't even really call it a subgenre. You're calling it like, it's not what people universally would put into a category. So if you named a song, I think we could all agree if I named a bunch of Jimmy Buffett songs, you could put that into a quote unquote yacht rock category. But then there's other artists where some would put it in that category, others would not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I disagree, though, when you call it a genre, a movement, because how do you explain classic rock? Because we, as mid-40s, we consider classic rock Zeppelin, the Stones,
but we don't,
Allman Brothers.
But that's not the case anymore.
If you put on the classic rock channel on the radio or on satellite or on Spotify, Apple, one of those, you're hearing bands from the 90s.
No, of course. Yeah, you're hearing grunge.
So define classic rock.
Yeah.
So now grunge has become classic rock. And see what I mean? This is the further away
you're right, but grunge
removed you are from the era, the more the terminology kind of and the categorization changes.
Yes. But grunge was an era, a movement, and so were all those bands from the late 60s into the 70s, right? That was a distinct kind of movement that was going on in music, which is why you got all these bands with a similar type of feel and sound. Right.
Yes.
And the same with, glam rock or hair bands, whatever you want to call them. The same with, going back even further, like the original rock and roll, like Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry. These were clearly movements that were happening. And in my opinion, you might call me crazy, which I think you would. But in my opinion, like those are real genres. and the rest of it is just like people calling things what they want to call them. Right, like you can call anything, right? And if a couple of people agree online, it's like, okay, yeah, we agree that. I mean, if you look up the origin of yacht rock, it happened in like 2006 or 7, where people started calling it this. And if you look, that's right along the time when music streaming really started to take off, or MP3s were really big. And we were getting away from listening to albums and artists, and we were like the playlist was really big on, like you would buy all these songs for 99 cents off of Apple, and you would put them on your iPod and have a playlist. That's when this stuff started. To me, that's like the most bogus way to define a genre that I can think of.
I think with that argument, you're right, because to go back to the whole being universal and what people would consider certain bands or music falling into that category, I think we could all agree, whether you call, to use your example with the hair bands, to call it glam rock, glam metal, hair metal, any of those terms, I think 99% of the people that you ask, you could name a bunch of bands, they would all agree that they belong in whatever category you want to call it, but that we all know what we're talking about when we say those terms.
Yep.
When it comes to yacht rock, you're not going to find that agreement.
No, you're not. You're not. It's stupid. It's stupid and arbitrary and lame.
So it's not really a genre.
No, of course it's not.
But I understand what people mean when they say it. I think most people kind of get the idea of what you would consider yacht rock, but I think you're more accurate to call it like easy listening, because it's the same thing. It's not really a genre, but easy listening is a more descriptive and accurate term to describe the music we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally right. And look, if you want to call it a genre, that's your prerogative. You might say, look, a genre is just what people are willing to accept as, a categorization of music. Fine. I don't agree with that, and I think it's dumb, and it doesn't do the artist any service, right? And so, I don't like it.
Well, I think we should look up, for the sake of the argument, we should look up the definition of genre, and we're going to prove our point here because genre, and if you look on, let's see, Oxford here, a category of artistic composition, as in music or literature, characterized by similarities in form, style, and subject matter. So, by definition, you can call it a genre. You can call it a genre. But at the same time, if you can't all agree, if universally we don't agree what belongs in that category, I think we all understand what belongs in rock. We all understand what belongs in pop, jazz, blues, that kind of thing. Although there's a lot of gray area with rock and blues, right? But and the same with jazz. But I think when it comes to yacht rock, it's really Dave, anybody's guess.
Can you go out there? And according to that kind of definition, you could say music that Dave likes. That's a genre. That's stupid.
I'm not my own genre.
Yeah.
What would I call it?
I just created my own genre. And like I said, there's a critical mass of people. I think that in the end, that's really what kind of, determines if a genre is a thing or not, is if there's some critical mass of people that generally agree. Yeah. And yacht rock definitely meets that, those terms. It meets that. It checks that as a box that people agree it's a similar type of music sound that people like. But to me, it's so stupid and doesn't mean anything that, I think it's lame.
while we're doing this, I'm going to post in our Facebook group, and if you are interested, go over to Facebook at Guitar Dads Podcast and answer this question: what belongs in yacht rock? So I'm going to post that right now.
Oh God!
And well, so we agree. Like, well, I mean, what is it? Something like what people listen to while they're boating? I mean, you own a boat. Is this? This music you would play while on the boat?
What does that mean? And a lot of the time I'm on the boat with my daughter and she wants to listen to Taylor Swift. Is Taylor Swift yacht rock? This is
Taylor Swift.
First of all, I don't own it. Second of all, I don't own a yacht.
No, you don't. But your boat's huge.
I own a smaller fishing boat.
I mean, your boat's like 75 feet, so it's really
I guess you could call it. Yeah, I mean, I did buy Tom Brady's old boat, but other than that, not really.
Well, I'm going to post this in Facebook. You guys go over there and answer this question. What music belongs in, and I'm going to put quotes over yacht rock, around yacht rock. Always confused about how to spell yacht because it doesn't look right. But
totally. Yacht's one of those weird words like you don't know how nobody knows how to spell. Yeah, it's yacht. English is so crazy. Yeah, let us know if you believe in and in those comments of what, let us know if this is something you think is a real thing that matters that we should even be talking about. My opinion is it doesn't, and it's lame. But you guys heard that loud and clear here, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you and I probably agree more than we disagree, but we definitely have a few disagreements with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, head over there and let us know what you guys think.
Let us know what you think. Yacht rock. What are some other made up genres, Dave? Like
I don't know. Actually, I was thinking of this because of when you said it's like a made up genre. What else does really exist? I think there's a lot of other genres where we've come up with alternative terms to describe them, like I've gone over, but I don't know. I don't think there's really any other. I don't know.
Is there anything like this? Well, like some people call that
pretty unique.
Some people call like Creed and bands kind of like them butt rock. But I feel like that's like
a whole different thing.
But I feel like that's not really a genre that people appreciate. That's just like almost like a derogatory thing. Like, oh, that's butt rock.
Did you hear the Creed cruise Creed cruise, which has not happened yet.
The summer of 99
was so popular. Summer of 99. They're doing a second one right after it.
Wow.
Yes. So
this is unbelievable.
Go check it out. It really is.
I can't wait to see the videos. I can't wait to see the YouTube videos from this thing. It's going to be so funny.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, if we had, I wish we had the opportunity to go on this thing because this really is like music from our like heyday. You know,
it really is. It would be really fun.
It would be really
so.
Fun.
You know, speaking of that, why hasn't there been a Yacht Rock cruise?
I know.
If it's really a genre, why isn't there a Yacht Rock cruise with you know, well, Jimmy Buffett's dead, but you know, like Christopher Cross. I just thought of his name with the
Christopher Cross sailing. Yeah, that's it.
Like, why isn't there? Like, I can't name any other artists that sing Yacht Rock because it's a dumb thing. But why don't? Why doesn't somebody come up with like Yacht Rock on the cruise? Like, this is like a perfect thing. You know why?
It really is
dumb.
True.
That's why.
Well, hold on. Now, let's go on the wikis and see what this.
Nobody would go because it's dumb.
Okay, this is how Wikipedia defines Yacht Rock.
I looked at this.
Yeah, I did too, and I just wanted to read it to the listeners. Originally known as the West Coast Sound. What the hell does that mean?
This is dumb too.
That's another dumb thing. Or adult-oriented rock. Again, what the hell does that mean? Is a broad music style and aesthetic. I think that about accurately describes it. It doesn't call it a genre, and you can't.
But it's not an aesthetic. Like, that's stupid. How is it an aesthetic?
Commonly associated with soft rock, one of the most commercially successful genres from the mid 70s to the mid 80s. Although I'd argue 90s too. But drawing on sources such as smooth soul, smooth jazz, R&B, and disco.
So
I mean,
so
then Jimmy Buffett isn't.
Yeah. So then Jimmy Buffett is. So this is dumb. You know, our friend Jim, our friend Jim, who is like a big Yacht Rock fan, told us that Chicago is Yacht Rock and the Doobie Brothers are Yacht Rock. Like,
how are the
dumb.
Doobies Yacht Rock?
Like, come on.
Sorry, Jim. We love you, buddy, but like, Doobie Brothers Yacht Rock?
It makes no sense. So this is why I think it's dumb, and it's very arbitrary to every single person, you know, what it is and how it operates. And I think it basically comes down to I'm a semi-obnoxious person that wants to play music on the beach, and this is my playlist.
Yeah, so the term yacht rock did not exist contemporaneously with the music the term describes from about 1975 to 1984. That's a very specific time frame there. It refers to adult-oriented rock or West Coast sound, which became identified with yacht rock in 2005, like you said. When the term was coined by J.D. Risner? I don't even know who that is. Anyway.
Probably some music critic.
Maybe some music critic. But yeah, so there you go. What do you guys think? I don't know. Matt and I seem to kind of mostly agree, but partially disagree. We'd love to know in the comments what you guys think. So go over to Facebook at Guitar Dads Podcast and check us out at Guitar Dads Podcast on Instagram too. And we want to know in the comments, what do you guys think of this stuff? Is it stupidity? Do we have a point? Can you argue it? Because if you have a better argument, we would absolutely love to hear it. We're totally open to it.
I'm much more upset about this than you are, Dave. And look, and we've said it. We've said it a couple of times. Yes, people agree it's a genre of music, so therefore that makes it a genre. And I reject that, and I don't want to hear it.
But we do want to hear from you. And if you do want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Guitar Dads Podcast. We would absolutely love the support, and we really greatly appreciate every single one of you that are supporting us now, and our loyal listeners. And like I said earlier, any of you new listeners that just happen to be listening this week, we hope you come back for more fun stuff. We promise it's not as dumb as Yacht Rock, but find out next week.
Well, I don't know if we can promise that.
Well, we lightly promise. Lightly promise. As you know, if you're a listener, you know that we make a lot of promises we don't.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes on the Guitar Dads. So,
but yeah, man, I think that might be a wrap this week. Got anything else?
That's a wrap. We're going to take it to the Patreon, where we're going to talk a little bit about gear that has come out in the past week and some cool stuff that we're interested in. And if you're interested in that, go check us out at patreon.com/Guitar Dads Podcast.
That's right. And I think for now, that was this week's Guitar Dads Podcast.
Keep rocking live. Catch you on the flip.